Hello, this is Aneesha Rai, the editor of Identity, and today we are hosting a panel in collaboration with Glaze Granite and Marble on the topic Material Matters. We will discuss how surfaces shape narrative, form and function across both residential and commercial settings. We have a very diverse panel with us today. Please introduce yourselves.
Hello, thank you so much for inviting me to this amazing panel. My name is Arango and I'm the founder and creative director of CTC Design.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for having us today. My name is Rosaline Tashdjian. I'm the business development director of Kristina Zanic Consultants.
Hi everyone, my name is Aleksandra Nastic. I'm a regional lead designer at Bagot in Dubai studio.
Hi guys, I'm Vivek. I'm the general manager for Glaze at the Abu Dhabi branch. I handle the Abu Dhabi Emirate for Glaze.
Let's start a little bit from the selection process. So Monica, can you tell us a little bit about your approach to selecting the type of surfaces in your projects?
So I think that when we start or we engage any clients or projects, it never really starts with surfaces. We love to first give an identity to our projects, and through that we start building a story. Surfaces is certainly a very important factor and very relevant because it gives the tone to the look and feel that we're aiming for. And when we come to these selections from a very preliminary stage, is usually from the brief of our clients, the DNA of the identity that we're going to give to our project, a little bit on the CTC design aesthetic as well. So selecting surfaces either from the beginning to the middle to the end is a process. And it doesn't come intentionally in the sense that, oh, we're gonna feature A, B, C, D kind of a stone, but definitely it comes organically. So yeah, I think that's kind of the process.
Aleksandra, what about yourself? When Woods Bagot does these huge and massive projects, when does the surface selection come into play? And if you could give us an example of a project that you're recently doing and the surface that you've picked for it.
Yes, we have usually very large projects, not only in here and all over the world. We collaborate. We have that opportunity to collaborate with our studios across 17 offices. And we have our strong strategies. We have a 7C. We talk about future and positive impact and people empathy and all of this, which we want to bring in the projects. But in the beginning, we like to listen, to be a good listeners, to be honest, and understand the branding, understand the operators' inspirations, client inspirations, because I think, and elevate all of this as a strategy. I think that's very important. And then off that, we go to do more into the details and selections, which comes later on. That overall picture in the beginning has to be really strong to match everybody's aims and intentions.
Can you suggest, can you talk about a project that you've worked on where you've selected a particular surface for a reason?
I mean, we have a lot of confidential projects. We have residentials, we have hospitality projects. We did 25 hours, everybody knows about this, I can talk about that one. And we have others that we're working and can't speak, unfortunately, but let's say 25 hours was a good example because the branding and operator has a very strong story and narrative, which is important, that obviously reflected into selections of the surfaces. We use a lot of micro cement, continuous surface, not very much stone because it's a bit of rustic and story related to the location. I think also we need to understand where the project is, right? Like in which part of the country, in which part of the climate, right? Which is so important. Understanding this in the beginning is a success to the project.
Vivek, can you tell us a little bit, taking out from that point, in terms of climate and the environment that we are in the Middle East?
So like how we approach as suppliers for, when clients are approaching us, most of the clients are generally recommended or rerouted to us through the designers or the architects who have given them a specific list of stones that they will be needing for their projects. And we try to be true to the designs that have been recommended by the designers, and we try to help them with the selections of the material based on what they have been told by their designers, architects, subcontractors, whoever has been in the picture already. But a lot of times we do get a lot of walk-in clients who have come to us through social media or through word of mouth from their relatives and friends. With them, it now becomes our responsibility to guide them to what kind of materials they should be using, more importantly, which material they should not be using for a particular place. Like Ma'am Aleksandra was talking about the climate conditions. We all know the extreme climate conditions that we have here in the Middle East, and there are certain stones which you cannot use. Like in general, if I'm talking about marbles, are something which you cannot use externally in this region. So we have to recommend them alternate options which are conducive to the climate conditions here. Like they go for travertine, they go for granites. Then there are alternate options in artificial stones like sintered stones which can be recommended for external usages. So a lot of it depends on what has been recommended, and a lot of it, when it becomes our responsibility when the client is walking in directly, we try to guide them. We first understand, like Madam said, it's the same process. We try to understand their vision, what they want for their project, and then based on what we get from them, we try to recommend from our side.
Rosaline, in your experience, you've started to work a lot as part of Kristina Zanic Consultants. You're working a lot more in Saudi Arabia. So what's the feedback like from this region in terms of the types of projects that you're looking at the moment?
So as primarily our projects are luxury hospitality, we focus a lot on the luxury aspect when it comes to the surfaces, and the most important is, from, as they all had mentioned, is design intent, the design narrative. It all, whether Saudi Arabia or Dubai or Europe, it's always about the narrative of the brand. And because we work in the luxury field, we have clear brand guidelines when we're working with all the different operators and brands, which kind of defines our direction and mood. And then later on, we look into more of the function of the space, and we try to understand the durability of the materials, and then that's how we do our selection process when it comes to all the services. So it's not just more to Saudi Arabia, but it's more as a whole. It's all about the brand, the location, and the guidelines that we work with.
So have you ever come across a situation where the brand has a certain amount of guidelines, but it's not really conducive to the environment and the region, and have sought out alternatives that have worked?
The brands that we work with primarily are very common in the region. So when we work with a lot of Marriott hotels or Accor or IHG and Hilton, these are the four big brands that we work with as well. It's very common that we work with the local materials, the local surfaces and availability as well. So we haven't come across situations that are...
Okay. Aleksandra, what about you in this case?
I don't think we found a challenge because it's a common dialogue in the beginning and understanding. So as you said, like all these operators and clients are very educated nowadays, and they understand this region, they understand constraints, and I don't think so there is a challenge, but more into working to elevate and get to the final goal and make the project really a special storytelling one. So that's...
Monica, you work mainly in the residential sector. So are there any particular stones that people are particularly asking for, that you're seeing sometimes does not work for the general region?
Yes, it's interesting to hear from the operational side to the residential, because it's a completely different approach. I think for residential, more often than not, our clients are not really educated with the industry materials or not. They know a global general sense of what you will see. So our main objective as designers is that we try to educate them. They come with a lot of ideas, they come with a lot of use of materials that are not possible. I'll give you an example, which often happens, which are kitchens. So kitchens, I mean, stones are something that you feel, obviously, and it's visually very beautiful. And in the amazing world, we will use marble pretty much everywhere as surfaces because it gives us a feel. Right. When it comes to kitchens, then we come back to the questions of sustainability, durability, and more often than not, as designers, we tend to recommend not to use marble in countertops or kitchen countertops, just because of the longevity, just because kitchens are obviously high circulation, stain could happen and whatnot. So our aim is we have many clients where like we would love to, and we don't, we give them all the pros and the negatives, and ultimately is their decision. So most of our clients that want to go with stone in the kitchens, which we have done before. They also know the negatives about it, and when we do suggest that, we tend to recommend to go on the more textured ones, or the ones that are like less on the whiter shades, so the stains are less visible. But yeah, so I think it's a process of understanding the client, understanding obviously the material, and then obviously thinking about the past, present, and future of products. I always love to think about this because it's not really what you see that is beautiful, but does it actually work with the narrative that we're working with? Does it work with the client? Is it functional? So those are the kind of questions that we often come across with clients, and yeah, marble is something that, for me, I have a personal relationship with marble, and it's just how we use it and how we incorporate it in our projects.
Okay, Vivek, can you tell us, in residential settings, what are some of the more popular surfaces that have?
Marbles are the first love for almost everybody. Everybody wants to use marble. But then, there are a lot of factors that come in the functionality, as we said. A lot of places where you cannot use marble, like ma'am said. For kitchen surfaces, marble is generally not recommended. We have to educate the client a lot of times because, they are not aware. They just see, for them, a stone is a stone, and then the difference between the different types of stones, when they understand it, then they can make a more educated choice. And then, then there are certain types of people who still want to stick to a certain a natural stone for the kitchen. So then we recommend them other options like quartzites or granites, which are more better used as kitchen surfaces. So if we talk about what are the popular surfaces for residential projects, obviously for kitchens and areas where there is high traffic and all that, quartzites and granites are mostly used. For external usages, if we're talking about the villa claddings and the landscaping areas of a project, then there are stones like travertine and limestone, which are highly recommended for external usages, especially in this region. Other than that, you use granites and travertine for the flooring, which can sustain the heat and the extreme climate conditions over here. For internal usages, still marble is the first love for almost everybody who wants to build a home from scratch. But a lot of things like sintered stones have been catching up really fast. Brands like Neolith and X-Stone have been doing really well. They have all kinds of designs which give you the look and feel of a marble as closely as possible. So these are certain brands and surfaces, products that are really in trend these days.
Okay. Aleksandra, if you could tell us a little bit about what your storytelling process is when you're approaching a project.
I think the first thought would be, as I said in the beginning, we want to really listen. Like, we want to understand what are the aspirations of others. And it's very important, right? Like, you want to not to come into the space which is just aesthetically beautiful, but you want to come and feel it and have an experience and just talk about this after. So we really need to go deep into that process and understand all of these details and do a lot of research. I think that's the key, right? Research in every sense, like really in a bigger picture in the beginning, and then go to the little details, which are, of course, counts, and sometimes people don't see them, but everything has to come into one place. So, as I said in the beginning, where is the project? Explore, what's the history? It's much more easier to create or work on a project that has a heritage, I would say. You have that thread that you can reflect into design in a selection of the materials and all of that, whereas you have a new project and you don't have that connection to start from, and then you have to reimagine that. So it's a bit of challenging in that sense, and Dubai is always about, let's create something that nobody didn't see it. So, right, that's a famous sentence when you come to the client, they always ask about this. But as I said, when you have a project with the deep kind of threads, it's so nice to revive that and show and then engage again the end users.
Can you give me an example of a recent project that you've worked on where the story is special to you?
We have one in Saudi, which is still, we can talk about this one. It's like a heritage project that we are gonna soon announce, and it's a palace But again, we always, with these large projects, still have the NDAs to sign and things. We can't engage in some residential, which doesn't have that thing. But again, the 25 hours is the one that we did it, and everybody knows I can speak about that one, and others are a bit more.
Happy to hear about 25 hours.
Yeah, I was engaged from, to be honest, from concept to execution. It was like a 5.5 hours process of designing, and it was good that we had opportunity to work from the very first beginning, talking to operators, traveling to Germany, because it's a German, 25 hours is a German brand. And the 25 hours here, One Central, is their first and biggest 25 out of their country. And after that, they explore a different location, to Jakarta, to Florence, to Paris, and all of the other ones. So, and I think that kind of operator that elevated and worked with, and collaboration is always the key. We learn a lot from this. And that helped us to really elevate, as I said, the intentions and design processes and stories. So we spent a lot of time talking together, traveling together, looking to all these details and how we can actually bring this region and stories into that. So they have a famous sentence, you know one, you know none. It means, like, if you see this one, it doesn't matter, you're going to have a travel in another one and actually explore and see all these experiences and stories.
Wow. What was some of the localization efforts of the 25 Hours Hotel? Because you said it has a very distinct design language, and I'd love to hear from you, Rosaline, as well, and because you do a lot of hotel projects as well.
Artwork has a big impact in 25. We work with a lot of local artisans in every sense, but also international one, and trying to bring the life and soul. I think the place needs to reflect the soul. So if it doesn't have a soul, it's not like really the design. And this collaboration between international artists and local artists and bringing all these layers and reflecting it everywhere was, I think, a great success of the project.
Yeah, I think I can relate, adding on to what the ladies were talking about, with Saudi Arabia primarily, with so much construction happening at the moment and the demand. It's all luxury, you know, the mid-scale type of developments for hotels. It's not as much as the luxury. Everyone wants to go to the 5-star luxury hotels with the Red Sea, the Neoms, the Qadiyas, the Dara'iyas, you know, all the PIF clients. So they're bringing all these different brands to the country, whereas the country primarily is not ready and equipped in terms of the availability of the resources. So I think the approach, you know, with the Red Sea, for example, when they were actually constructing one of our hotels that we worked on, the St. Regis hotel on the Red Sea, it's the lead times and the time that they have to build these hotels are also confined, and they want to open at a certain date and time. So making sure that these brands are able to deliver on time is also one of the important lead times for.
Would you say that's considered one of the challenges of operating in?
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge in Saudi Arabia because they're not ready, it's not equipped. Even contractors that are in the country, they're not experienced enough to build 5-star luxury hotels. You know, I'm born and raised in Saudi Arabia, so 25 years ago, the only hotels that I can remember is just the Intercontinental Riyadh or the Sheraton. And now, all of a sudden, there's like a surge of all these hotels opening. The contractors that are in the country are not trained enough for the technical and the fine execution of these type of interiors and fit out. So there's also that challenge. So here they have the most beautiful, luxurious marble that we have specified, but then the actual execution and you know, installing it in the interiors is also a challenge for them. So we do see on a few projects that we've had where we have had challenges with the contractor. So therefore, we do a lot of site supervision on our projects in Saudi Arabia.
Monica, you're looking into Saudi Arabia as well, and you have done, I think, concept. Could you tell me a little bit more about that?
So yeah, I think that from the residential part, we only work precisely the reasons because of resource. So we worked on the concept design phase and the design packages with clients that obviously want to build a dream home and whatnot. And one of the main concerns that we come across, one of the reasons that we don't pass procurement or execution is number one, I feel that the experience is a big impact, and I think that is very important that as designers we're very transparent about it. And whenever we have clients in Saudi or anywhere in the world, now we have a very cool project in the Seychelles, it's very important that from the beginning you're very clear of what you can do and what you cannot do. While we do have several partners in Saudi, we don't have, as a company, the infrastructure to do the supervision, the quality control, whatever our design is going to meet execution and whatnot, which is, again, a process. So I feel that our intent as designers, especially in Saudi now, is to kind of translate the language that we're building here in Dubai from a design perspective. And then try to use, so funny enough, most of our specifications are based in Dubai. So clients usually tend to procure from here, and now, as you all know, there is a lot of operational transactions between obviously Dubai and Saudi and all of the brands. I'm sure that Glaze is working a lot in Saudi.
We've recently been registered as one of the vendors for NEOM project. So now we can directly supply to those projects. And apart from that also, I myself and we have colleagues who are handling the different regions in Saudi Arabia. We have supplied stones directly from here to those projects, mostly residential, to those projects in Riyadh as well as Jeddah, Dammam. So, and people there who are building their homes, thankfully they are very open to travel here, take a look around, spend a day or two, pick up the choices of what they want, and they go about it that way, because they know that the availability of these stones are very rare in their part of the world. So wherever possible, and the quickest possible place for them is to come to UAE and then pick the stones from here.
So how are you navigating that for the moment when it comes to clients from Saudi Arabia in terms of supply and things like that? In
terms of supply, see, the border here, the border regulations are pretty lax when it comes to transporting things between the countries in the MENA region. So, they have their own understandings, and there are very basic formalities which are needed for sending things from UAE to Abu Dhabi, or for other countries, Bahrain, Qatar, Oman, all these countries. They know that the construction market in UAE is way more advanced compared to the countries in the region. So most of the people, including the contractors and the designers working in those countries, are open to the idea that at certain point of time they might have to visit UAE, Glaze, other companies, whatever it is. They come, they choose the stones that they want. We send samples for a lot of projects. Like within UAE, we send around 300 plus samples on a daily basis to all the design companies across UAE. Apart from that, we send samples to Saudi, Qatar, Bahrain, when, for the clients to have a look and feel of the stone. And then based on that, what entices them is, it's just a one-day journey which they can come early in the morning. They don't even need to check into a hotel. They can come directly from the airport, spend the time in our factory, in our warehouse, galleries, and select whatever they want to go for. And then in the evening flight, they can be back home. So, that helps them a lot, the ease of traveling. And then the basic requirements, there is very minimal requirements in terms of documentations and everything to send material in the MENA region. So that helps a lot them also in selecting materials and for us to cater to their needs.
Okay. I also want to know, as a supplier, how does Glaze help interior designners that is a little bit different than the other companies?
See, like I was talking about right now, on a daily basis, we are sending around 300 or plus samples to design companies all over Sharjah, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Ras Al Khaimah, wherever there is a need, there is a project going on. During the conception stage also, a lot of communication happens between the designers and our team that, okay, we are planning to use these kinds of stones. what is the practicality of it, should it be recommended, like, sometimes there are certain stones which you want to use in a bulk quantity, but they are not a very easy stone to procure. So, we give them those kinds of feedbacks that, okay, this should not be used in these areas. Like we were talking, marble should not be used for countertops, or marble should not be used externally. There are still certain types of marble which you can actually use for a countertop also, because the region from where the marble comes, it impacts the composition, and eventually it impacts how the stone is going to be, how is the stone going to react to different kinds of surfaces. So a lot of communication there happens, where we give what we know about the stones, we educate them. We hold sessions like lunch and learn with different design firms and architectural firms, where we have a one-on-one session with the entire design team. It's a 1.5 hour session where we discuss about the different types of products that are available in the construction related to stone, and where and how to use them, where not to use them, so that they have a proper idea about what they are specifying in the project and how it will turn out to be. And then samples are a major part. Like, we have a dedicated team with just delivering samples all throughout the day for different project requirements in all the 3 major emirates in the UAE.
Right. I'm going to go on the other side of the fence now. Aleksandra, what are some of the challenges that you have seen with suppliers when it comes to, in general, it doesn't have to be about...
They need to be transparent always, right? Like, and we don't like to hear that hidden kind of parts. And actually, I was just thinking about it. I would like to have, if ever possible, to have a kind of passport for each material, call it, and just have all this information inside. What's the country of origin? What's the labor ethic, right? What's the sustainability part of that material? What's the slab image? It's not about little sample that I put on my desk and I have no idea what's the graining, does it really work, like what creates kind of aesthetic visual impact. And if I could have all of these very transparent in my little booklet and have these little passports in a drawer, and I really be transparent and confident when I'm presenting the same thing to my client, then I would feel more confident. We work better together. I don't want to lose the trust. We build this relation together, and that's something that I want to have in the future and always with everyone.
Yeah, almost like a QR code that you could
Exactly.
scan on every piece of sample that you have.
Right? So,
Just like you just go over and it says everything that's
I know where
pros
it
and
comes
cons
from.
and
Exactly. That
yeah,
would be
where
great
to
advantage.
use it. Yeah, that's
All the information, technical, visual, slabs kind of variety, country, all of these things. I think that would be great.
What about you, Monica?
So yes, I completely agree. I think that the kind of the history and the background behind a material, it can be anything really. But I think that as designers, we have often a very close relationship with suppliers, and at the end of the day, we are the ones that are representing their brand with the client. But with that, aside from obviously the information and especially with marbles, the fact that for me, personally, for us, a small sample, it doesn't really say a lot because you really need to see the full slab and whatnot, and decision making when it comes to big quantities is never about a small sample. Maybe that's the first glimpse. But aside from that angle, I feel that in general, CTC, we are very much into building a relationship with our suppliers, our partners, collaborations, and that relationship goes a little bit beyond the normal norm. I always say that in very difficult times that we all face in projects, if you do have a very strong relationship with your supplier, they will help you out. They will supply that impossible material, they will make sure that, because fortunately, I don't know how to call it, but I think the Middle East in general, we work in a pace. And there is always, you want the material yesterday. And it's not about us, unfortunately, it doesn't work like it works in Europe or in the States. When it comes to operation, you want to finish your hotels or whatever it is by tomorrow. A residential is the same. And there is a sense of expectation from the client. So there is a couple of factors that I always, even when we engage for the first time with suppliers that we don't know, we have kind of a guideline. And this guideline expresses most of the frustrations from the clients. Which are the common frustrations? Delays. Lack of transparency in the delays. I mean, we're humans. Of course, there is problems happening in the factory, in the source, whatever it is. But as soon as you anticipate that delay to the designer, because at the end of the day, we are the ones communicating to our client. The stone is not arriving in the certain day that we agreed, it's delayed by 1 week. But if we know this information, not 1 day before the deadline, but maybe 1 or 2 weeks, then we can work out with our client and we can twist around the timing and have transparency, as we said. So transparency is key. So I think that things like that, and then also when it comes to quality as well. And the whole aspect from a supplier side, that information should be really clear from the beginning. And then, and be quick with your invoices.
Rosaline.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Managing expectations for the clients, because we're the ones primarily having that one-to-one conversation with them. So it's good to manage their expectations. But I'd like to, at Kristina Zanic Consultants, we work very closely with all the suppliers. We're not exclusive to 1 or 2 suppliers. We have relationships with all of them. And depending on the demand of the project, the requirement, then that's how we go about selecting which supplier and which brand and which material we want to work with. But one of the challenges that I would say is, again, transparency, definitely. I would also like to add with the tight deadlines and submissions, our designers don't really have the time to come and visit the stores, unfortunately. But it's so important to have that one person dedicated to us, that's just always on call, that we can depend on. For samples, as you said, for technical specifications, quick questions, and that would be really important to have that consistency.
Right. From the business development perspective, how are things different in your case? Because you've got a very different role than just, you are an interior designer by profession, but you have shifted roles. So how has that changed?
Yeah. So in business development, the fact that I get to create relationships, of course, with the developers, the operators, but also the most important ones for me are also consultants and suppliers. Because when I go and attend these events and I go meet them and have that one-to-one, we have a lot of that exchange of conversations. And I get a lot of my market intel, from these suppliers on projects. It's a bit confidential, but it's just having that relationship with them can help me assess what new projects are out there, which designers are working on it. And it's just a good way to kind of broaden your horizon and information to bring back and share with your team and what's being done out there.
All right. Monica, I wanted to ask you, have you ever come across a brief where it involved a wellness space and that involved a different type of material, like a healing stone or something along those lines?
So I don't think precisely I have worked on any kind of particular request on a healing stone, because obviously that's very tailored of your beliefs. But I do believe that there is a really nice relationship between design, wellness, well-being, mental health. I'm a big advocate of that. That's one of the reasons that we started CTZ Design. So I definitely do believe that certain materials and then the way that you incorporate them as a composition give a certain energy. And that's a little bit our narrative as a company. So we do want to give that experience. We do want to make whatever space it is, make it feel like calm and whatnot. And through that, we do it through materials. So for example, when we're talking about stone, I think that things like travertine, limestone, all that kind of feel in general, it gives you a sense of calmness. And if you go to, for example, beautiful luxury hotels, that you guys build. I'm sure that part of the narrative is that, because when you do want to go on holiday, home away from home a little bit, when we talk about hospitality, the sense is that you want to make your customers feel at ease, relaxed, you know, forgetting about all the problems. And we try to do the same in residential from another perspective. And we do that through materials. We definitely implemented that sense of wellness through materials. I'm a big fan of composition of different stones. So, for example, if we're gonna go for like a very relaxing kind of feel and whatnot, yes, I think that the lighter stones have the sense of it, but I do believe in statement stones also having a nice composition within those stones as well. So yeah, definitely. I have not worked in any particular healing crystals, but I definitely believe that you can create that with the composition of different materials.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the materials to use the more natural materials like travertine or the handmade clay materials. They're in demand. They've come back, and the terrazzo as well, with all the different aggregate mixes and colors. But I haven't heard of primarily a demand in the healing stones in hospitality, even though we do work a lot in wellness. But yeah, it all depends on the brand and the guidelines we have and the different calming tone-on-tone natural materials.
Aleksandra, do you concur, or has there been a change?
Yeah, we work in large project spa, definitely, but we tend to have a spa consultant with us because spa is very technical. A part of this beautiful story, well-being, that is a topic that everybody talks about. We need to understand technicality of this, and there is these stories about using certain rose quartzite, jade, amethyst, and all of that. Even we found out recently on some of the beds, considering in a project, that there is a sand made of these stones, so you lay on them. They're really like some of the products, so this little sand, when you lay on them, really create a special healing and energy, calmness and balance. So that's the treatment that they're proposing, but we just talk together about these details. So it's not about just large surface in that sense, but rather that kind of building the story in that sense. So, and there are a lot of things on the market, research and things like which can be used, and that will dictate also demand of the supplier. Tomorrow I give a call and say, do we have a sample of this beautiful rose quartzite? Or it doesn't need to be in a spa, also it could be just part of an artwork, or there is artworks which they're using a little detail, so it could be just a beautiful container sitting on a table made of this, and it makes an impact in the space. It's just not, even it has another healing effect, but it's also have an impact to everyone. So.
Yeah, to add to that now, we have a collection of stones which we categorize them as precious and semi-precious stones, and these are slabs made out of these crystals. So we have, the pure white crystal, the rose quartz that you're talking about, amethyst, and the many other obsidian, and a lot of stones which have those healing factors as it is considered. We have those slabs now which are extensively being used these days for, residential projects mostly, because people want those kinds of stones. Not only for the healing factor, but it brings a positive vibe to their day-to-day activities. So a lot of bathroom projects and the feature walls in the living room, they try to use these kinds of stones, obsidian, and the different types of agate crystals are available. And we have a huge collection. The tiger eye is there, which is considered to bring to keep away the evil eye and all those things. So a lot of people do believe in these things, and of lately we do see a surge in demand for these kinds of stones. It's not like people want to buy them in bulk quantities, but yeah, they do want to have at least a piece or two of those slabs also in whatever way possible, a bar counter if it's possible, master bathroom counters and feature walls. They are very, very good, and they're beautiful stones, People generally look them as a crystal, and when you ask about healing stones, people imagine them as a crystal or a pot or a vase made out of those. But now those are available in slab formats where you could actually use them for surfaces like, as I said, for bathroom counters, bar counters, or even, you could lay them on the floor with lightings and everything, with current technology, everything, it works marvelously.
All right. Thank you. We're coming towards the end of this panel. I would love to know, this is an impromptu question, but if you could pick a marble today that would reflect your personality type, what would it be? Just for fun.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, in my case, I think that I have a personal relationship with Calcutta Viola. It is a stone that I have used in my home in many aspects of around it, like either in a vase, in a countertop or whatnot. And I feel that it's a really nice balance between a Trancal, like kind of light stone, but it has these kind of dominant kind of veins which are burgundy, which resonates very much with actually the color palette that I love very much. So one way or another, like my team knows me very well, and they're like, even if it's just one piece, I always incorporate Calcutta Viola somewhere or another in my project. So I will say that would be my favorite stone.
This is a very interesting one. Given just my personality, I guess I'm the type where I just like more calming spaces, a lot of natural colors and tone on tone. I would probably pick something that's not a statement piece and something very calming to calm me down. So it would be something like the Italian Aleksandra. That just has more of a natural, and it's also, it's a beautiful piece. And we as well use that. We've used it recently on one of our projects. So I've met with the suppliers and dealt with it as well. So it was really interesting.
Aleksandra?
I think it's a difficult question. I can't answer today, that's my favorite stone. It depends of so many of moods, of things what I'm working on, and just I'm in love in so many of them, and it's hard, to be honest. It's not one style, one recipe, one kind of answer, so really can't just put my finger and say that's the stone that I really love, because in some instances I love that stone, in some it doesn't really work, and it's just I'm not really fond of this.
So it depends on your
And I
mood.
just feel the stones, I love the exotic stones also, but in very minimal kind of usage, they really make an impact. And I don't feel anymore the marble is any big blanket surface like it's used to be. You cover everything with the marble. It's more about little impact in the corner that really creates that emotion. So.
Vivek, this is a very tough question
For me,
you,
it's
I
like
think.
choosing among my babies.
You can't choose
You cannot. I have like 450 favorite stones. So yeah, really, no, I wouldn't want to go with any one of them in particular. But yeah, I feel fortunate enough to spend my day in and out with all those stones. I see when the designers visit us, it's for them like it's at a candy land. They just want to go through every piece of stone. If they possibly could, they would use every single stone in every single project. But yeah, the kind of restraint and budget that they have to go through, that not to use every single item and stick to what they have in mind, it's remarkable, and I really appreciate the work that they do. But yeah, choosing a favorite stone, no, cannot be possible.
All right, thank you all for sharing your thoughts and your expertise at this panel. It's been great fun. Finally, thank you to Glaze who helped to bring together these amazing minds and this beautiful collaboration. Until next time.